Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel today. Today we are diving into one of the most controversial figures in modern Nigerian politics, in modern Nigerian, world and high society. That is the person of Nnamdi Kanu. Is he a terrorist, a freedom fighter, or simply a separatist leader? What is your opinion and what does the law actually say about all of this? Let's break it down. Stick around until the end for a deeper understanding of his impacts and the legal perspective on his actions. So let's start with the basics. Nnamdi Kanu is the leader of the IPOB, the indigenous people of Biafra, a group that is seeking the independence of the southeastern region of Nigeria. That is, the region formerly proclaimed by erstwhile Biafran leader Ernest Ojukwu to form a part of a nation state called the Republic of Biafra. Now, Kanu is a passionate advocate of Biafran separatism, and his rhetoric has stirred both strong support and fierce opposition amongst the northern parts of the country, the southwestern parts, the southern parts of the country, and are mostly among the elites of Nigeria. His movement gained global attention and global traction following the Nigerian Civil War when the Biafran region declared independence but was eventually crushed. Now, Kanu hinging this agitation on the Nigerian Civil War has led a charge for a renewed Biafran state, arguing that the Igbo people, that is the Igbo ethnic group, you know, of the southeast are marginalized by the Fulani Janjaweed or by the Nigerian government. Now, the question now is he a terrorist or a freedom fighter? Here is where the things get interesting. Different people have called Nnamdi Kanu many things. People from northwestern, northeastern, and some parts of the north central Nigeria have called him a terrorist. The elites of Nigeria have called him a terrorist. Some uninformed people and even informed people amongst the elites and the law enforcement have called him a terrorist. And some see him as a hero. Separatist groups see him as a hero. The many people of the Igbo nation see him as a hero and a freedom fighter for a suppressed people. And still others view him as a separatist leader with dangerous ambition. A very powerfully dangerous ambition. But let's dig into what these labels really are and what the law have to say about this. Let's start with the label terrorist. In 2017, the Nigerian government officially declared IPOB a terrorist organization. Now, this designation was based on accusations that IPOB under Kanu's leadership was hinging towards terrorism. Yes, including attacks on Nigerian security forces and government facilities, different instances of him calling out for the murder and assassinations of security agencies, especially the members of the Nigerian police force and the Nigerian military, were cited, and the organization was proscribed as a terrorist organization. The Nigerian army even labeled Kanu's group as a threat to national security. Yes, he was labeled as a threat. Himself and the organization, as the independent movement of Biafra, the people of Biafra, were labeled as terrorists and threats to the Nigerian state. Of course, Kanu used this opportunity, to justify his agitations for a non-suppressed Biafran state for the Biafran people, because he will argue that the Fulani group also have other groups like the Mieti Allah, Kota Hore, the Mieti Allah, and other groups by the Fulanis, but they are left to do their things and get away with it. This is argued by Kanu himself and some in some quarters by people of, you know, by the people of Biafra. That is the Igbo people that identify as Biafran people. That is the Igbo people. But here is the catch. The term terrorism is a legal one, and not everyone agrees on whether IPOB's actions actually fit that definition. International law requires that terrorism involves violent acts aimed at civilians to create fear or intimidate a population, usually for political, religious, or ideological reasons. Now, some argue that IPOB's protests and military actions are focused on fighting oppression rather than terrorizing the people. From the angle of the Biafrans, the actions are meant, to fight oppression. He's a freedom fighter fighting for the people of Biafra, seeking their independence from an oppressive state. To them, why should he be called a terrorist or, a separatist leader? Now, let's look at the freedom fighter label. For many in the southeastern region of Nigeria, Nnamdi Kanu is seen as a symbol of resistance, as a symbol of, you know, hope. Yes, hope as a symbol from hope from a repressive system, a system they see as highly repressive, a system that has repressed their political, social, and social-cultural rights. Now, his supporters argue that he's fighting for the rights of the Igbo people and other marginalized groups in Nigeria. They see his demand for Biafra's independence as a cry far-fetched, a cry for justice following decades of political, and economic neglect by the central government. Now, for them also, Nnamdi Kanu is a voice for the oppressed, pushing for self-determination to them. His cause is no different than other historical movements that fought for independence, like the struggle for independence in African nations or the American Revolution. Some even refer to people, the revolution of men like Chama Mao, Zedong, Fidel Castro, you know, and other, of course, Nigerian figures like erstwhile Biafran leader Odumegwu, Emeka Odumegwu. But what about the term separatist leader? Kanu has always been clear he wants the creation of a new country, Biafra, independent from Nigeria, and that is where things get tricky. Is that not separatism? You want to separate from Nigeria. Because separatism in itself isn't necessarily illegal. Around the world, people have fought for independence and they also want to be identified as separatist leader. We have the Kurdish people, the Kurdish movements all over, Asia, seeking for countries. And some of their leaders, want to be called as separatist leader. They don't see it as insulting, they don't see it as denigrating. But in Nigeria's case, the government sees Kanu's actions as a direct threat to the unity and territorial integrity of the country. Now, from a legal standpoint, the Nigerian constitution is very clear. Nigeria is one indivisible nation, so advocating for a breakaway state like Biafra can be seen as a threat to national security and unity. Hence the government's response. Now, let's get into the law behind all of this. Let's get into the law behind all of this. Nnamdi Kanu was arrested in 2015 on the charges of treason, money laundering, and terrorism-related offenses. He was later released on bail, but his arrest sparked massive protests from IPOB supporters and the Igbo people. The Nigerian government argues that Kanu's actions, including his call for violent resistance and his mobilization of supporters